of you, full of the abundance that is you, the fullness that is you, that you can live any life that you want to live, anything that you want, you can truly have. So now let me turn this down. Beautiful. All right. So okay. We are on YouTube. Just going to now just give me a hoy in the chat if you can hear me all right. Just yes. Say hello. It's good to see you, Gabriella. And those of you watching the recording, I know a lot of you have joined and will be watching the recording, which is good. All right, so I really want to introduce this whole topic. Some of you may not like the results that you're getting in your life. And that will often happen through life. Something happens, or you find yourself living in a certain way and you think, you know what, I don't want this. I want better. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but for a lot of years, I didn't ask that question, like, what does better look like for me? I just kept accepting that it was my lot in life and that I had to just suck it up. Well, I'm here to tell you today that that's not the truth. If you're living in that contrast of, you know what, I don't love this, and you may have been living like that for quite a while, I want you to know that if anything's going to change, it's going to happen in us. I spent a lot of years, like 27 years, looking outside of myself for the answer to my miserable life. To the outside observer, you might not have thought my life looked miserable, but I, inside of me, was not a happy girl, not a happy camper at all. And I didn't realize how it could be different. I was only saying to someone today, you don't know what you don't know. And I just used to look at other people and think, well, that's okay for them. You know, they've got money, or they've got a great relationship, or they live in a beautiful house, or they've got whatever it is that I could see they had. And I thought, well, that obviously it's not for everyone. And this is my lot. This is what's happened to me. And I just have to now live with this. That's how I used to think, because I didn't know any different. There were times when I thought, gee, I'd like to be different, but I had no idea how that would happen. I certainly wasn't looking at changing me. Like I didn't think that was even possible. And so as my story is that I met Bob Proctor actually on YouTube. And I heard him speak, and I heard him say that you could change the results you're getting because you can change you. You can change you from the inside, and that I'm in control of the life that I lead. And so he started to open my eyes to the fact that there is a best me. There is a better me in me. I don't have to go out and get it. I just have to reach in and let it be expressed. And so how do we do that? And the first thing to understand that really started to free up my thinking was to understand that I am a spirit, like this spirit of life. I have a spirit of life in me, and I'm in a physical body. This spirit is living through my physical body, and I have an intellect. Now, this is different to, let's say, animals. Animals have a physical body. They clearly have a spirit of life, but their intellect is different to ours. They live instinctually. We have intellect. We get to think. We have an awareness. And that this is where it starts to get exciting, because we don't have to just live with what we've got. We get to create. We are co-creators with this spirit of life in us. That's how it works. And so as we start to think about and indeed step into the best of us, that's what I want you to keep in mind. that you have this spirit of life in you. If you've ever seen anybody pass away, as we call it, the spirit of life leaves the body. And the body's still there, but there's no life in it. And so I want you to think as we get started. We've got 5 days of this training, and I want to take you through some things and get you thinking. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, please do that. And if you haven't received a workbook, please reach out to us and we can help you find that. But day 1, I titled, What Do You Know? What do you really know about you? Your purpose, where you're going. Do you know what that is? Do you have a sense of what you're here to do or who you're here to be? Hey, Emma, thank you for joining us. I want you to think about that. And I've put a quote in the workbook at the very start of day 1. And it says, I know that I am able to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. And I want you to think about that. That's a statement, and it comes from the self-confidence formula, which is in a book that I read, and I actually doctored it up to suit what I'd learned. I know that I'm able to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Can you say that you know that? Now, if you're listening to this training and perhaps you're watching the replay, a lot of you have registered to get the replay, please sit down with your pen and paper and actually think about what we're talking about here. Because many, many, many people hear lots of things and it literally goes in one ear and out the other, or they might retain a little bit. But I'll tell you what, when you sit down and actually deliberately tune in and listen and think and answer some questions, you will find things start to shift for you dramatically. This is what I did 8 years ago. It seems like a lifetime ago now, because so much has happened in my life in that last 8 years. And I am not who I was 8 years ago, that is for sure. And that's what I did. I started listening to somebody teaching me about me. And I started answering some questions. And so the first question I wanted to ask you is, where are you going? Do you know what you are stepping into? What's your intention? Where are you going? Are you moving towards that? Another way of asking it would be, what do I really want? And am I moving towards that? You might be so cluttered up with what is happening on a day-to-day basis for you that you may not even be thinking about what you really love. Where are you going? And that quote at the top of the workbook, I know that I'm able to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. So you have to think, well, what is my definite purpose? You are definitely purpose-built for the purpose, which is you. And the life in you, those desires that you have, are yours. And they're yours because they're for you. And that's why it's co-creation. You are designed to have a desire that draws you forward into being, doing, having, creating. And the very life in you wants that. Okay, that's number one. And so that is why we can know. Why we can know that, yeah, I am able. The next question would be, are you willing? That's the bigger question. You are able to achieve the object of your definite purpose in life. And so the first question is, what is that? What is it that you truly want? And I don't mean just one thing. It's like, what is the expression of life in you looking to express? Where do you want to live? How do you want to live? Who do you want to live with? How much money do you want to earn? What fun do you want to have? What do you want to create? What lights you up? And so when I look at that, I know that I'm able to, I ask myself, do I know that? And I want to ask you, do you know that? Can you feel it in you? Allow yourself to feel the fullness of your desire with no doubt, no fear, nothing associated. Just here right now, you might jot something down. What is it that I want? When I started to think like that, you can feel it rise in you. You can feel the life in you come alive. And so I want you to focus on that. And I'm going to take you down a road in the next 5 days. Okay. These trainings at this time every night for the next 5 or 4 days now after this. And so the next thing I would ask, and it's good to have a think, what is it that's stopping you? When you get in contact with, well, this is what I'd like. And please keep jotting those things down as they come to you. Once you sort of take the lid off and you really start asking yourself, what do I really want? And that's the whole idea here. We do not want to stay. We're not here to keep the status quo. We're here to grow. And your goal, your desire, the things that you truly want is going to stretch you. Okay. So you will feel like, oh my goodness, I don't know how that's going to happen. I was only just talking to someone today about, how much fear comes up when we start to look at what we can see that we have. You might not have the money. I desperately wanted to work with Mr. Bob Proctor, and I'm so glad I jumped off that cliff when I did. I paid the money over a certain time, and I jumped. I said yes, thank goodness. I met him 6 years before he passed, and I became a very good friend and spent a lot of time one-on-one with him in the last 3 years of his life. If I hadn't jumped when I did, that opportunity would have been missed. What opportunities are you leaving on the table? Are you not activating because you're staying where you are? And you're saying, well, I can't see it yet. And we'll talk more about this throughout the week. But that question, if I know I'm able, and let's just assume that for now. Okay, I know I'm able to do whatever it is and to achieve the desires of my heart. I know I'm able. What is it that's stopping me? And it will be different for everyone. I'm just going to check these questions. It's a good question, Gabriella. Yeah. And can I get back to that? That's a very good question. So let's think about what's stopping you. And that for you, Gabriella, that's the thing. So you jot that down. And all of us can become aware. For me, the things that were stopping me when I first started this work, and if you'd known me 8 years ago, you would have gone, what on earth? And in fact, I had some friends say that, like, what are you doing? Like, you barely speak. You're not confident. You're quite shy. What on earth are you thinking that you're going to do with this? And I wasn't 100% sure. All I knew was the desire of my heart was to learn from this man and to help other people. I knew there was more in me. I perhaps didn't even know the more. I just knew there was more and I could feel it. And I did not want to die wondering. Now, I'd lost a husband when I was 22. I had 2 very young children, very young. And so death was a thing for me. I was very aware that, what this life experience that we're having doesn't necessarily last until we're 80, 85, 90. It could end at any time. What do I want to do? And that fire that lit in me has never gone out. Like, one day will be our last for all of us. We know that. And so what do I want to do with my days? And how long am I going to wait? And like Gabriella suggested, how long am I just going to please other people and appease other people? Yes, this desire is ours alone, because you and you and you are all individual expressions of life, just like a sun ray. I was looking at some yesterday. I was riding early up in the hills. Oh, so beautiful. There's the clouds resting in the valleys, and then the sun coming through the trees. Every sun ray is individual, coming from the source of the sun. Your life in you is individual. It's an expression, individualized with and through you, coming from the source of life, the very same source that all life comes from. It's powerful and it is individual. And that's why, like you say, Gabriella, that we can go wrong. We can go down a path trying to appease and please others. But our real purpose here is to fulfill the life in us, individualized life in us. And you know, when we leave this earth, and I regret to say that a very beautiful person that I knew of passed away on Saturday night. And I was so sad. Like, this person was such a beautiful expression of life. Now that expression is gone. No one else can be that or create that. And so really value that in you, the life in you. And so back to the question, do I know what stops me? Some of it will be your conditioning. Some of it will be what you've grown up believing. When I'm working with clients, we talk a lot about belief, about faith, as in, what am I believing? What am I acting out in my life? And beliefs are formed when we're very young through repetition of an idea, and it gets planted in our subconscious, and we just know it as truth. A lot of the time it's not a conscious thought because it's so planted. And we start living that, so dedicated to living that. And that was me, and that's you, it's all of us. Until we sit down and say, actually, this belief is not serving me. And that can be quite a task to do on your own, especially. Sorry about the balloons, not sure what makes those happen. So your beliefs are planted, that conditioning is very, very strong, and you're living it, the results you're getting in your life, down to the smallest things. You know, I've started working with people, and this happened to me when I said yes to saying, I want more, and I'm going to learn more, and I'm going to become more, and I'm going to step into the fullness of this life that I've got. And I started doing that, and all manner of things started to pop up in my experience that seemed like roadblocks. That can happen because of the conditioning that is so strong. And when we start to live outside of that box, out of that conditioning, it's almost like an alarm goes off, and we will start to experience things that would keep us there, keep us stuck. So your conditioning is one thing that would be stopping you, for sure. The other thing is our environment, the people around us, circumstances. Those are all things in our current environment. You know, if I had looked in my bank account and done my budget that day, that I decided to change my life forever. I mean, how many times do you hear that? People say, this will change your life. I don't even know if my mentor said that, but I just felt it. I felt like, you know what? I think this is the thing. And so I jumped. But my circumstances didn't scream yes at me. In fact, it was probably the most risky thing I could have done at that time when I look at it. But everything in me said, this is it, do it. And I jumped. Now, most people are not living the way they want to live. You know, we can hang it together. We can have a nice house and do something with our days and play the game. And I was doing that, had the facade, looked like it was all wonderful, tick, tick, tick. But I knew inside me, how much longer are you going to live like this? That was what was being going on in my inner conversation. How much longer are you going to live like this? And my health had started to deteriorate. I was having panic attacks actually at the very height of it. How much longer are you going to do this? If I change nothing, nothing changes. And I knew that. And so when we follow others, we're not living the best of ourselves. Each of us are so unique. And we're not here to please and appease. We are here to express the absolute beauty of life in us. And it's so unique and it's so different. If we were all doing that fully, what a beautiful world it would be. So what do I know? What do you know about you? Do you know what you want? And when I ask you this, start general. You know, do you know what you want? And don't think too hard. Just let it come. What do I want? What would I like my days to look like? What would I like my life to look like? Just whatever words come, let them, jot them down as we're talking. What does it look like? Because that's the first question we have to ask ourselves. What am I aware of? I became unbearably aware that I was unhappy. As much as I tried to deny it and fight it and put on a brave front and be satisfied and all those courageous things, I couldn't do it any longer. My health was betraying me, was showing exactly the energy that was going on. And so I had to start listening and making some bold moves. And my goodness, that's when it all got very exciting. And I know too much now to go back to living that way. And I couldn't go back to living that way because I've already put 8 years worth of knowledge, practice, and now it's the way I live. And it's beautiful. So in your workbooks, I've got a few questions because I can talk to the house come home and teach you lots of things, but I want to meet you where you're at. And I want you to meet you where you're at. If you are to discover the best of you, it must start with you, one, being aware of you. And in this world, it's very easy to not be aware of ourselves. You can keep so busy and be so entertained. But if you're on this training, I mean, a few of you have shown up, and that's so good. A few of you are waiting on the recording, and that's good too. And some of you might catch this live in YouTube and happen across it like I did with my mentor who did change my life. And I'm so grateful. And that's why I'm out here doing this, not for any other reason, except I sit and think often about the dear man who at 81 was still going out there, putting out this message to help people. And here I was at almost 50, 30 years behind him. Where would I be if I hadn't found him? He was the person that resonated. And so if this resonates with you, we'll stick with it. Stick with it till the end. Do the homework, download the workbook. And if you're just seeing this live and you don't know who on earth we are, then pop a comment in the YouTube and we will get the link in there for the booklet. But please do the work each day. And if you've registered, you'll get sent the replays, okay, to have a bit more time. So I want to go through a little bit of the homework that I've got for you, okay, because the first thing is awareness of what's going on for you. What's the contrast? What do you like? What do you love about what's going on? And what do you not so much like? What do you think? You know what? This isn't me. This does not suit me. Doesn't feel good. I don't enjoy it. Because the very purpose of life is joy. You're here to enjoy. And I don't know if you're like me, but I was not taught that as a child. Not at all. But that is the truth. Okay? Enjoy life. So I've got a question in the workbook. Do I know this? Do I know that I'm able to achieve the very object of my definite purpose in life? Do you know that? And do you know the truth about you? The truth that you are an expression of life. You have this power in you looking to be expressed, and we just want to go with it. And that's exactly the essence of what I teach is how do we go with it? What does that look like? How do we practice that? So the truth about you, what do you know to be the truth about you? And you know that you're able, and I'm going to give you this answer for your workbook. I want you to write it in there now. It says, I know I'm able because, and it's because you have the desire. If you have the desire and you can see it in your mind, you've heard it before. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. If you can tell me what you want, I can show you how to get it. I know I'm able because I have the desire. You know what? Where there's desire, there's power. Where there's no desire, there's no power. I have a daughter who sings beautifully. She had the power in her to do that. It was a potential waiting to be given life, given opportunity. I do not sing well, and I've never had the desire to sing. There are other things I do well. I speak well, and it took me some time to acknowledge the desire to do that. So what is it that is you? What is your purpose? Your purpose is something that lights you up. Okay. And it might be that you just start gathering little components of things. Like I love nature. I love people. I love learning. I love teaching. What do you love? What are the little and the big things that light you up? And on the homework page in your book, there's a second part to the quote at the top. The quote at the top is, I know that I'm able to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, this is on the page of your homework, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment. And I here now promise to produce such action. Now, this is interesting. I want to talk on it for a little bit. What's our time like? Yeah. So knowing this, knowing about the power of life in you and that you can have, be, do, create anything that you truly desire. Knowing that you can demand of yourself, sounds pretty, strict, but it takes that sometimes. I remember one day I'd only just started this and I was fluffing about, not really doing what I said I would do. And I jumped out of bed one day and there was a mirror right next to my bed and I said, are you doing this? I was living on my own, so no one else could hear me. And I yelled back at myself, yes. And then I said to myself, well, what are you doing about it? I had every intention, I thought, but I was not doing it. And so it's time to demand of yourself, knowing everything is working out. What do you choose to demand of yourself? This is your life. And yes, there are times when we have to say no to something that is not us. It doesn't resonate. You're not here to serve others against what resonates with you. Now, that might go in contrast to what you believe. I used to think serving meant you hate it. You're a servant, you hate it, you just trudge on through. Serving in your right purpose will be a joy. It will come from your heart. You want to live in spirit. We're going to talk more about that during the week. Demand of yourself persistent, continuous action towards the attainment. So the first word, persistent, you're not going to jump out and have it all done before dinner, but you are going to hold on to that vision. And in fact, you're going to build the vision. You've got to start with the idea, build the vision, and do it persistently. Every day I get up, I do my gratitude, and I am on the vision. What's my vision? Remind myself. And do you know what that does when you persistently build that vision and see that vision? It plants it in your subconscious. That's how you got the beliefs that you are now living out. It was repeated over and over, and it planted itself in your subconscious. So be persistent about demanding of yourself. What are you going to persist in? There are some things that you might be persisting in now that are not serving you. My goodness, and you can feel it. I know you can. I've been there, where you're so persistently doing something, saying something, thinking something, accepting something, and you can feel that it is not a fit for you. What are you going to swap that out for? No longer persist in that, but you are going to persist in something that lines you up with the fullness of your purpose, of your desire. What are you going to demand of yourself? What are you going to persist in? And as I say these things, because none of us have bucket loads of time to sit and just, ponder all this, but you'll have thoughts come to you either now or afterwards. You might be cooking dinner, you might be going for a run in the morning, whatever. And because you've asked these questions of the universe, of infinite intelligence, you're saying, what is it for me? The answer will come. So allow yourself some time to just not be trying to figure it out, but let it drop. And when it does, jot it down, because they're like these ideas, they whisk on through. Got a question there. Continuously to make it a habit. What am I going to do continuously to make it a habit? Many, many years ago, I was watching a movie and this woman was running on the beach. I hadn't run since I left high school and I'd had 3 children since then. And I thought, oh, that looks so free. It looks so good. It just, I don't know, something welled up inside me, a desire. I wanted to be able to run on the beach and look like it was fun. So the very next day, I went down to the beach. I just said to the family, I'm just going to the beach, going for a run. And I ran for, I don't know, I'd like to think it was 3 minutes. So it was probably a minute. And I felt horrendous. And I thought, oh, this is not fun at all. I could barely breathe. However, I got home and I thought, you know what? I want to run. I want to be one of those people that goes out for a run in the morning. And I wasn't. And so I began to demand of myself persistent action in that direction. And I did it continuously, building it until it was a habit. And now I've been doing it for, goodness, 20 years or more. And so I want you to think about the life you want and what are the things you're going to be persistently, continuously demanding of yourself because you want them. Not demanding of yourself because you should or you're trying, but because you want them. That last little question there. What am I going to take action on towards the attainment of my desire? Okay, so note that it's not the big, well, everything at once. I'm going to face in that direction. Even admitting that you want it and begin to write it every day is a step in the right direction, is something you can persist in. And please understand the power of that. We're going to talk about that further on in the week. And thought is an action. Okay, when you deliberately think something, I did a little post on that this morning into the Life Abundant group. Thought is an action. You get to choose your thinking, your thoughts. Now, they will run automatically because you practice thinking in a certain way. That's not the thinking I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking the reins of your thought and directing them and stopping the other thoughts and saying, no, enough of that. This, you can only think one thing at one time. So you choose what that is. And that is an action towards the attainment when you think about what you want rather than what you don't want. And the very last piece of that little quote at the top says, I here and now promise to produce such action. I promise. Now, who are you making that promise to? It's to you. Now, I know, certainly as a woman, I talk to plenty of women who can't keep promises to themselves, don't keep promises to themselves. They will bend over backwards and, walk over a mountain of glass to cater for other people in their life, but they will not keep a promise to themselves. And so they don't even make them. I am all for being you and not betraying you anymore. And that starts now. If you are someone that has made promises, I'm going to get up and walk in the morning. I'm no longer going to, I don't know, drink alcohol, read junk magazines, whatever. And you've said that and then you go back on it. I want you to be determined about this. Determine who you want to be. get a view of that and line yourself up with it. And make sure that it's the life you want to live. Okay? No more betraying, just being you fully and freely. And it starts with just today's, what do I know? Do I know what I desire? Give that some space. Do I know what I don't want anymore? Give that some space. And do a bit of a stock take. Okay. Now, tomorrow we are going to talk about thoughts being things. Very interesting. Please do join me for that. I just want to address this question that this desire is yours, yes. And often, like one of you has said here tonight, I often steer another direction to appease others. And how does that make us feel? When we know like we know, and how often has it happened? I've got 3 daughters and now 6 grandchildren. So lots of family. And, you might get that one moment where you think, you know what, I'm going to have a bath. I'm going to eat some chocolate. You plan out something and then somebody calls in and has a need. And so you let that go to go and, now there's nothing wrong with that. If indeed you go, oh, I feel to do that. But we must build up what is in us. Women are so good at, and have been for centuries, giving out of the emptiness that they are living in. And it doesn't serve you. It's not a holistic way to live. So please hear me. I want every single person hearing this. You must connect with who you are and fill your tank. And you give out from the overflow. Okay? So many of you are giving out from the emptiness. And that never ends well. Might go all right for a little while until the walls start to cave in. So if you really love your loved ones, let them know and teach them, in fact, that filling your cup is important first and foremost. Put your oxygen mask on first and then help others. Okay, and so tonight's consideration is, what is my purpose? Your purpose is what lights you up. What does that look like? Start to get a bit of an idea. What area is it in? What makes me feel good? And start to do a bit of work around that and answer those questions. What am I going to persist in? What am I going to demand of myself? Because it lights me up. It's what I want. Start looking at that. And tomorrow we'll talk about how these thoughts that you are now choosing to focus on persistently, how they do turn to the results in your life. And it is fascinating the way this works. All righty. So thank you for joining me. We are on again tomorrow night. It's only been 40 minutes, a short one to replay when you get the replay emailed to you. And if you haven't registered, please use the link below to register so that you can get the workbook, get the replays, and join us. All righty.